seeing glasses?
Are those your seeing glasses?
Yes.
Oh,
I finally found them.
they were lost. There we are.
Yes.
That's hilarious. All right, we are live. Got it. Okie dokie. Welcome back, everybody. This is the seventh episode of the Mental Moms podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining in live. And if you're not live, you can always watch the replay here on YouTube. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I know before we get into the compatibility charts, Aurelie just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a check-in in regards to her schedule, her life, just an update on her. So take it away.
Hello, guys. Good morning. So happy to be here. Happy Tuesday. Nothing really much has changed with work and school. But next week, I will be absent from the podcast. Um, as Katie knows, it's my dad's anniversary. My dad passed away a year ago tomorrow. No, the 29th. Sorry. So I will be, with family, kind of celebrating his life. So, but I can't believe it's been a whole year.
Yeah, that's really wild. I feel like we literally were just talking about it. So I know obviously that can be like a very emotional time. How have you coped with it over the last year?
It's I don't know if I've actually coped with it the way I would like to, because just life keeps going and you have to kind of stay busy. But I will tell you, I've had a couple of times where it's been a little bit really hard. I don't know, sometimes your mental kind of forgets. And I have had times where we're talking about whatever, and I'll say, oh, my dad probably knows someone who does this. I'll just call him. And then I kind of have to pause and be like, wait, he's not here anymore.
Yeah, that's
So
really interesting.
those are the harder days for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think there is this thing where our brains kind of do forget. And I mean, we're so used to that being around because for 33, 34 years of your life, he was there and you could just call him or contact him. And to not have that is such a strange, it's just weird. It's
It
strange.
is.
It's
And
like a
also
missing void.
yes, it's like a missing void. And it's like, man, but it's so crazy because even that day, do you remember when I messaged you?
Yeah.
And I didn't even message you in a crazy way. It was literally,
Like,
hey, Katie,
oh,
my
hey,
dad
my
died.
dad died. And I was like, what? Yeah.
And I had, it's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
nuts.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah.
it's all right.
Yeah. Obviously, I grew up around your dad for a long time. And so I know you had told me that, he'd been sick. And, I think maybe his mental, I think like mentally, maybe he had been preparing or he was kind of more so ready than most people.
Yeah.
And so I think when you message me, it's obviously like still such a shock, but like you're saying, sometimes it's hard. You have a young child and then you have all these other things going on in your personal life where it's like you go in and out of the grieving cycle, right? Because it's grieving is
Right.
not linear. It's like you go through these phases. And so I think every anniversary, sometimes like it weirdly helps us to stop and pause and be like, where am I emotionally with my dad's passing? Like,
Right. Because
yeah,
I didn't realize it was a whole year. And also, I don't know. I feel like part of what's helped me was that I already told, we talked about it obviously. So, I feel like 3 days before he did pass, I feel like he kind of really did tell me what was in his heart, and he said he was ready. He said, I'm ready. I'm tired. Obviously, the older you get, I feel like that's what is expressed more like, oh, I'm old, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just kind of bizarre that 3 days ago he said, I'm ready. I'm tired. And, 3 days later, I messaged you, Katie.
Yeah,
It's
like what the
insane.
heck?
It's
Yeah,
insane.
it's almost like he was calling it kind of into existence. Like he was like, sometimes with even when I did your natal chart last week, I was talking about our soul's purpose. And I think like whenever I've listened to anything spiritual, it's like when people talk about dying and they fully accept, it's like they have a knowing in themselves, like, my soul has done what it needed to here. And your dad was talking about it like in a more physical way, like I'm physically tired of having to do like all these things, but also maybe too it's like this deep knowingness of like there might not be more for me to do here if I can't physically work or if I can't use my body, you
Right.
know, at least for him. And so I also did think that that was very like interesting and almost kind of like spiritual that he would tell you not long before he passes, like I would be okay. And I think if someone can tell you that and then it happens, it's like a weird gift because you don't want to
Yeah.
hear it, but then you're like, damn, I knew where my dad was at.
Right. And I don't think anyone's ever really ready to let go of their
Their
of their
parents,
loved
yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
especially with the relationship me and my dad carried throughout the years. And the past 4 or 5 years, we were great, and it's almost like he was looking out for me
Yeah.
because we've spoken about this before, how lost I got when Dylan passed away. I mean, I was lost for a few years,
Yeah.
and I feel like in a way my dad sort of kind of wanted to prepare me for it.
Yeah. Like he illuminated the path of but like, his ending, his physical ending, which I think a lot of times people really fear. But I think the gift he gave you was like, don't fear it. I'm okay with it. And like, I'm gonna
Right.
have this very direct like who like there's so few people that get to have that conversation. So I know like
Right.
when you and I had talked, like at that point you were like, I don't feel like maybe it's a gift, but I was like, I think that this was a gift from your dad to be like, I'm ready to pass on. And it's not like he almost made it seem like it's not a tragedy. It's part
Right.
of
Like I'm
life.
ready. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
okay. Right.
because death is a part
Right.
of life. It's just sometimes death can be in a very tragic manner for people. And then for others, like your dad, is like, it's kind of matter of fact. Like, I'm kind of like walking into this and I'm open to it. And I don't want you to feel bad. And like, I'm just ready to go.
Right.
And so that can still be difficult, but then you can look back and be like, dude, my dad wasn't trying to be here another 20 years,
Right. And
even another
also
5,
right. And
another five
working
months. He was like,
another 5 months.
yeah,
I feel like I don't know. I just feel like he was doing the most because my dad used to love his job. He used to love painting. And that's how he went, literally. He he was told you can't walk, you can't work. And then for some reason, that day that he went, he called his niece and said, I'm gonna paint your kitchen.
oh my
And
God,
she's
you didn't tell me this story.
okay. So
Or, well, maybe, okay, this is important to process, and then, we'll get to the other stuff later.
so that morning I was going to call him, but I said, no, let me just, get my day started. And when Marlene called me and said, hey, come to the hospital, my dad, I think, had a heart attack and he's not responding. I was like, oh shit. I went there and his niece's life partner
Uh-huh.
uh, was there. And she actually went and got me, from outside, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Your dad gave us a call and said I'm going to paint your kitchen." And I was like, "What? He wasn't supposed to work." And she goes, "I know. We said no, but 5 minutes later, he shows up." And I'm like, "What the heck?" She goes, "I gave him coffee, he had his pan con café,
Yeah.
bread and coffee, and he started painting." And so her granddaughter's 2-year-old was outside with him chatting it up, and all she said was, Juan cayó, like Juan fell. So everybody came out, and then he literally died with his paintbrush.
A brush in his hand?
Yes, like he was on the ladder. I'm assuming he had the heart attack, tried to climb down, fell,
Yeah,
and then
he
and it's
passed on.
fucking insane. And excuse me if I start crying, but this man died doing what he loved to do, and it's just insane.
Dude, that's so crazy because I didn't know the details of that. And please cry if you need to. But Areli, how often have we talked about like your dad left on his terms? So backstory on Areli's dad, he's been a painter since he got to the United States a kabillion years ago, right?
Right.
I mean, because you're, can I say your age?
Yes.
I mean, you're 36 and you're in like, so he had been in America a really long time. He was a painter, but over the last, I don't know, probably decade or so, he started getting like, he had health issues, his heart, whatever. And so his health deteriorated, and like you said, he couldn't walk too well, he couldn't really work anymore. And I know that really weighed on him in terms of like him feeling like a burden, or like, what do I even do? This man worked his
Right.
whole life.
He literally had been working since he was 10 years old. My dad, and I feel like I've said this before, but I don't know. He left his pueblo at 10 years old because they were really poor. And at 10 years old, he traveled to the city of Mexico to start working. He had literally been working since he was 10, providing for his family
So
until,
just to
he had kids and started providing for his other family.
Yeah, so he just always was a provider.
Mm-hmm.
So can you
Yeah.
imagine a 10-year-old, in a pueblo is a small town, and it's usually a small town in like a rural area. So think about a small town in a rural area. A 10-year-old says, "Well, I'm really hungry. I don't get a lot of food. I'm gonna have to go, like, let's say I live in Texas. I live in a suburb, and my 10-year-old is like, I'm gonna travel all the way to Houston." Right? And so he travels all the way to Houston and somehow makes it out in the world and starts working
Yeah.
at 10. And granted, when you're like from a third world country, you're built different. You know, you're you're
Oh
you're
yeah.
hu- you're hustling by the time you can. In the United States and like, in places that are much more developed, like we're privileged in many ways. Children are children and they're allowed to, or they're expected to have some type of childhood. Whereas I think like the generation of your dad, and sometimes like some people's circumstances just do not allow any of that. And that was definitely Juan. And so I didn't know that he died with a paintbrush in his hand. And I mean, he wasn't supposed to be working, but he just decided today, for some reason, I'm going to go paint this person's kitchen and I'm going to die just like that. And if you believe in like past lives or karma or your soul's mission, like people say, like that was what you agreed upon when you came into this world, right? Like you agreed
Right.
upon this life, right? Like the lessons come in however they come because human beings are human beings and they're gonna treat one another the way they treat you. But there's like certain things that we all have to like kind of face, like certain as adversities.
Right.
And for your dad, it was this thing. And then supposedly maybe he was like, well, then if I have to do all of this adversity, I want to go out in this way, the way I want to. And he did.
Exactly. Who also
I
Jeff
would love
Kerwin?
to read. Who?
Jeff Kerwin? The alligator guy.
Jack Irwin.
Irwin. Who's Jeff Kerwin? No
I
one, huh?
think you made that up. I don't know that person. Yes, he got stung by a stingray, but he was in nature.
Yeah. And his wife said he died the way he wanted to.
Yeah, like I'm so
So that's
sure.
insane.
Yeah, and I'm so sure that I think the devastation is like, I think the hardest thing about death is like when a soul, a person passes on, they leave their loved ones behind. So we in this physical world, we mourn them. They're not mourning anymore. They've moved on. Juan was like, I don't even fucking want to be
Mhm.
here anymore. I've already told you motherfuckers, like, I'm out of here. But it's up to then the people who physically loved him and were physically here to grieve, because that's part of it, right? And that can be really difficult. That is the most difficult thing I think about death is like we remember like we get guilty about what we didn't do, the relationship we might not had had, what we hadn't had said, dealing with finances when people pass away, and that will create like certain kinds of dramas or like the material stuff that was left behind. People get greedy, people do weird shit, and that's for human beings that are still here to deal with.
Right.
He doesn't give a
That
shit. Like he's
no,
done.
he's like, look, figure it out.
He's like,
I'm
you think
out.
I care about my clothes and my truck? Like
Which,
I'm,
by the way, we still Jose still has his truck. It's crazy.
yeah, we won't
It's
even get
crazy.
into all that stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, people act,
that's not
yeah,
it.
people get weird. People get weird about material possession because we are in a material based like dimension. So we suck. That's just kind of greed and whatever part of what we have to do as human beings. But it's really, really beautiful that your dad kind of got to have that legacy. And then when your daughter gets older or like when his grandchildren grow up, like they get to hear that story about him. And then it lives on YouTube,
No,
right?
it does. And I feel like the most beautiful part about the whole about sending him away and saying our goodbyes is that we literally expected the immediate family, his sisters, whatever, to show up. But Katie, when we did that fundraiser,
That's
um
right. Yeah.
it was the whole town
Yeah.
came together and pitched in for this man. This man was this friendly. And I was every like 10 minutes, every 10 people, I was crying because it was somebody else that came. Let me give you a specific one. There was this man that came and bought a bunch of food, right? And
So
then he still
just for
donated.
backstory, after her father passed away, it cost so much money to bury someone, like tens of
It
thousands
costs
of
so much
dollars.
more to die than to be born.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. But whatever, that's a fucking
So
story
be
in and of
careful.
itself. Try not to die. Do your
Or,
best.
start a death fund,
Well, you know what?
start a bank account.
After my grandma passed on, my mom bought herself and my dad like whatever because she had
Oh,
to deal with it. She
yeah.
had to find a place, a plot, she had to pay for it. But the backstory for you is like it was a lot of money. Obviously, you guys didn't have tens of $1,000s just kind of hanging out to bury your dad because it was such an like a quick thing that you all
Right.
put a like food fundraiser type thing together. So you
Right.
guys made
You
food
know,
and then you would be like, hey, we're going to be selling. So you guys could like basically whatever profit came from that, you guys would pay for the burial. So sorry,
right.
keep going.
For the plot and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? Dealing with this death, I never really realized all the things you have to buy,
It's
'cause
ridiculous.
it's insane because I remember even with Dylan, I didn't
Right.
know because,
Oh, you
my
didn't
mom
kind of did
took
that for
care of
you.
all of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
mhm.
it's everything. I mean, Jesus. But I remember this, and I remember him distinctively because he said, "No, by the way, guys, backstory, nobody really knows I'm the third child because everyone looks like each other except me." So, and so that's what everybody says because everybody was like, oh, Lily, oh, Jose, or, the little one. And then I was like, hi, oh, and you are the
For
third
real?
one. Yes, I'm not even kidding. Even his relatives that I hadn't seen for a couple years, but they know he has 4 kids, to my face would ask me, where's the third
Where's the
one?
four?
Yeah.
I've always felt like you look a little bit like Jose, but
Yeah.
I do think Marlene and Lily look a lot alike. They
And they
actually
look
look
like
like,
fun.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. They look like your dad, where I feel like you and Jose kind of look a little bit alike, but you don't look like your mom.
I
And
feel like, you know who
and
I look like that
yeah,
everybody told me that when we did the whole funeral thing,
uh-huh.
they said I look like Juan's grandmother.
Okay, because I was gonna say actually, like you don't look like your mom or your dad, but you
I
but you
look like, yeah,
mm,
what's his name? I want to say Chema.
your grandma somewhere. I don't know,
My
maybe.
great grandma, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I always thought you looked a little bit like Jose, but you do look different.
I think I have a little bit of both, but kind of separate because I
I
don't
can
look like
see,
Juan. Like I
yeah,
skipped generations.
yes, because Lily and Marlene look like Juan. Like they're Juan 2.0 and 3.0. Big
Yes.
time.
And then it's me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But so in any event, so he comes up to me and I said, oh my goodness, thank you so much for your donation, whatever. And he had tears in his eyes and he was like, your dad was a great man. I was like, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, seriously. And I was like, thank you. Hopefully one day we can repay you, whatever. He's like, no, actually, I'm paying him back. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah. He says, when I first arrived to the U.S.
Mm.
as an immigrant, I had no shoes. I had nothing to start work. So I had told him I was going to, try to find something that didn't require work shoes. He said, your father went and bought me shoes and said,
Oh.
start your job. And so he said, my first paycheck, I tried to pay him back. And your
Oh.
dad always had a motto where he said, today for you, tomorrow for me. And then when he said that, he said, and today it's for him. So
Oh.
I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
even
It's
now I have a knot in my
yeah.
throat because I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people would come up to us and say, today's for him, today's for him. We're like, whoa.
That's crazy because it's like that saying that he kind of like that motto he had in his life really played out for him. Because how much money did you guys end up raising?
Almost 40,000.
How much?
Almost 40,000.
Four
Four
zero
zero,
zero
comma,
comma
zero, zero,
zero zero
zero.
zero. Wow. Okay. That in how many days?
One. In one day.
Wow. That's fucking nuts. It was like
This,
he, no,
yeah,
go. Yeah.
he, like, this is the kind of shit, like,
Yeah.
and this is the
This
thing
is
that
when
would
you
kind of,
know there's a higher something in this world. I don't
exactly.
care what it is, but these are the kind, or people are like, yeah, people just banded together. It's like, yeah, but how much did the funeral cost?
Everything was around 30,000.
Okay. Okay. Who the fuck, unless you have money, you have friends and this, that, the other, can raise $40,000 in one day when a funeral costs $30,000. That means you as a family, we're gonna have to get in debt to bury this man. But the way in which the world provided was like, no, 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 Juan. You blood, sweat, and tears, helping others when you could. doing your best in this life will allow you to go the way you want to, and your family's not going to have to be in debt because you exited this world
Exactly.
in
And that's
one
insane.
day.
In one fucking day. And it wasn't even the whole day, Katie. The whole shit ended around 5 or 6 p.m.
So it was
And I
like
was like,
hours. It was an 8-hour workday.
yeah, it was a shift. It
It
was
was
a
a
shift.
shift. You made $40,000 to bury your father because the community in which he lived in valued him that much to know, fuck man, he helped me in A, B, C, D, E, F, G way. And now we want to make sure he's well.
Exactly. And I made a joke when Jose messaged us and says, guys, we fucking did a lot. And I was like, damn. So I messaged him back and I was like, man, you guys are gonna have to cremate me because I'm not friendly like that.
You're like, I don't know if anybody's going to be coming to my food bank situation giving up $100.
Because I have a natural resting bitch face. So I'm told. I don't think so.
I
But
don't think so either, but I know you. So it's hard. Yeah.
right. Because
Yeah.
even now, well, no, even when I used to work at the bakery, every single person, Yessie, one of my best friends, told me when I first met you, I didn't really want to be your friend because you looked like you were a bitch. And I was like, what?
Well, it's really funny because I think one of the things you and your dad really have in common is your sense of humor. Marlene has it too.
She's a little more sarcastic, though.
Sarcastic. She's drier. You're like goofier. But one thing about Juan is he was a jolly man. He was very jolly. I always felt like he was like the like Mexican Santa Claus or the Latin Santa Claus. Like he was just like, like he just was like ho 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 and all the way down. Like he was always just
Yes.
jolly. And he always kind of had this like kind of smile on his face.
All the time.
And he was
Do you
always
remember what
cracking
he
jokes.
called you?
No, Locairi? Was he
He's like, he used to say, Katie.
I just remember he would call me La Alemania when I dyed my
Oh,
hair
yeah,
red.
because you're fucking Russian.
But isn't Alemania German?
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
he kind of reminds me of your dad because every time he would say anyone's name, it felt like he was angry, but then he was not because he had a
Yeah,
smile.
yeah.
And your dad, I don't think your dad ever called me by my name. I think he always called me cabrona.
He will. So the thing that I do think our dads have in common is like everybody has a nickname. Everybody's got like they've got like some kind of uh, like they get enamored with you, so they like give you a pet name or a nickname. Like you're not just Aurelie, you're not just Veronica. It's like what you wear glasses. Like I'm gonna talk to you about. I'm gonna call you glasses for the rest of your
Lente
life, kind
loco.
of. Yeah, or something like that. Oh yeah, that was a person that we went to school with. That we used to call
Um,
him that. That was really mean.
and he would always ask me if your cell phone was okay. Do you remember
Oh
why?
my gosh, I remember. Did I throw it? I threw it, right? Like a
Because
fucking
your mom
asshole.
told you can't go to like homecoming or something.
And I threw my phone and it broke like bad. And I
And
think
he was
it
trying
was
to put it
together. He was like, damn, you're mad.
back. He was like, Katie, ¿qué pasó?
That is, I had almost forgotten about that memory. And the moment you said it, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. It was like homecoming. I couldn't buy a like this dress at homecoming, and I had worked really hard at school. So I was pissed. I was a
No, but
brat.
you were pissed because your mom, that was your punishment because you crashed into the TK
Oh,
burger.
oh, yes. Which did your dad come and get us from there? Or was it Jose?
Well, because the car was under his name, remember? And
That's
he
right.
was like, are you fucking kidding me? And it was a whole shit. And then you were like, I have to go, my mom.
I gotta do something, guys. But then I remember when you and I stuccoed it and painted it.
Your
Because
brother made us
remember,
do it.
my
He was
brother,
like,
so my brother worked, he knew some people. He knew a couple people. And this particular guy worked in construction, and so he called the guy and he was like, "Hey, can you have one of your guys just like put up a fucking brick wall?" It was tiny, but I fucked it up like a loser. So embarrassing. I've forgotten about that almost, but it's true.
It's
So then they
and then
put
you're,
up the wall and they were like, "Now you have to paint it." And you and I went like at 8 at night.
it was even later because we got home at 11.
I don't know why, but I don't, did we even paint it? I don't know, but we did that. And then that was kind of that.
You can definitely tell someone that wasn't professional at that painting.
You can tell some chick ran into it with her car, with her friend's
Yeah.
brother's car.
And I remember telling my dad, like, dude, they want us to go paint it at night. Like, and he was like, oh, well, but
Fucked it
hey,
up. So,
but that, and he never let that go. Even until
well,
now, when I
because
told
it's
him, oh,
hilarious.
yeah, I was like, oh my God, guess what? Me and Katie are pregnant together. He was like, oh,
She throwing phones.
she's throwing phones. I was like, but yeah, you were always the phone breaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, Juan, that's a crazy story. That's kind of amazing though.
Yeah. You've known him since we were basically children, dude.
Yeah, I knew him forever. It's like weird. And it would be weird like when I would go back to Costa Mesa or something and I would see him driving and he'd look just a little bit older because I had,
Mhm.
you have a certain memory of a person from when you met them. And then you like, you see them and like us, like gradually we age, but there's going to be to a point where we're much older. And so I remember when I would see him and he was like, he got more gray hair because you guys have really great jet black hair. I remember when he started getting more gray hair, like I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like he's getting older, but he was still just as bright and jolly.
Right.
I don't know. I always find it crazy how like the best people live such short lives and the shittiest people just fucking live forever.
I
They're
know.
like they're like 99, just waddling around with their face like this.
Pissed at the world. But you know what? My mom says that sometimes that may be your punishment.
That's
You
true
you just won't.
because you're just stuck in this like long life of just what you perceive as misery versus like you go younger, but you came here, you lived your life, your purpose, and you were good. I mean, why do you want to be here longer if you're not going to do that, right?
Right.
It's true.
But the selfish side of me wished that I would have pounded his medication more onto him. But that's just the selfish me.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day,
and I think
you
too,
know,
like being someone who's worked in therapy for like a long time, you can't make people do what they're not ready to do or don't want to do. Like, I've treated a lot of people, and some people are motivated right away. They're like, I want to change this, like, I'm ready. And other people just can't. They don't want to. They're not ready to. They're stuck on something. And it's the same, it's even more so with medication. Like, he knew he was sick, but if that
mm,
was not an intrinsic motivation for him to take this medication, like, it's just not. And it's so hard and it's frustrating because you love this person and it like hurts them. But I don't know. That's the difficult thing about like like your own free will as a human being. Like,
yeah,
obviously, Juan was a great person, but he just was like, I don't want to take these fucking meds.
right. And the thing with that is when I had my conversation with him, I was like, well, this is for this is for that. And he was like, but I don't feel anything. I was like, but you're not. You have to take them
Right.
consistently for them to begin to work. And he goes, no, but if it's for that, it should heal me faster. And I was like, but like you have to take it. And so he was like, no. And he goes, no, I'm ready. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you guys don't need me here, not being able to walk or work. And I was like, well, I mean, we need you here in different ways. Like, You and I just got super close a few years ago. Like, I need you. And he kind of paused. And I've never said this to anyone, but he kind of paused and he said, I don't know if I've ever told you, but out of all my children, I feel like you're the strongest one. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, even when you were lost, you never lost your smile. So nobody knew you were really lost. And that hit me because for some reason, I don't feel like I'm the strongest. And it's kind of like hearing him say that was really helpful because you know the relationship me and my dad used to have. And so for him to say that, it was like, wow. And then he said, you know, I'm so proud of you and you'll be okay. Like out of all the four, I feel like you're gonna be okay faster.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Think,
I don't
like, this is how I see that, like you and your dad's relationship was kind of rocky. We're not going to do the comparison chart thing. We're going to talk about Juan today, okay? Next time we meet, we'll do it. Yeah, maybe next week though, I'll show the audience what a synastry and a composite chart is, and then when you come back, I can read ours. How about that?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Like I don't fucking want to do that after doing this. Like I want to talk to you about your dad. No, but I think okay, so like this is how I see that. Even though you and your dad had a rocky relationship, I think often when a parent has a rocky relationship with a child, it's like they're fighting something inside of them that they see in their child. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, for example, when you look at your daughter, right, you have a certain point of view of her that she still doesn't have of herself and might not ever, because when you're little, your point of view is right here. It's like me, what am I doing? Like you're little, right? You're more self-involved. We all are. But you're watching your daughter grow up and you're watching different facets of her grow. So imagine you are watching your daughter and she's going through a really hard period of time, but you see something in her that you kind of see in yourself, but you can't necessarily tell your daughter that because she's not going to hear it. Kids don't listen to their parents in that way, right? Like they're just like, yeah, shut up, like whatever. So it's like, I think when your dad, yeah, I think when your dad says, I think you're the strongest one, I'm sure for your whole life, he was watching you and being like, this daughter of mine has something different and unique, because every child is unique. Like Jose, Lily, Marlene. Like Marlene is like the most emotionally stable one out of all of you.
Literally.
Like
She
literally
is.
hands down, I don't like I love you, but you're not that emotionally stable compared to
No,
her.
it's,
You're more impulsive and a little more volatile. It's okay, because that's who you
I'm
are.
a firecracker. I'm a fire, and I will. Yeah.
Yeah. But then your dad sees that about you and he thought, my daughter kind of is a fighter though. And when you're a fighter, sometimes you fight the wrong fight, but ultimately you don't want to give up because you kind of have that like warrior kind of like, no, I gotta come on top. Like I gotta get myself out of here. Right. So I'm sure your dad was watching you your whole life and just being like, because I think what happened with you and Dylan, like to go through that and still be able to find some joy in life, um, some pathway in life, some direction, not giving up, not losing hope, takes a particular type of person. Now, did you feel lost? Were you wandering? Yeah, but the road was windy instead of just like a straight shot, where now you're like, no, this fucking thing's got to be straighter than last time, But you were still
Right.
walking your path. It just, there was a lot of loop-de-loops, but he watched you because I think maybe if you put one of your other siblings there, I don't know what would have materialized in that life. What kind of relationships would they be in? What kind of addictions they might have? What kind of self-harm they might inflict upon themselves? Not like literally, but I mean, when you're drinking too much, when you're smoking too much, when you're spending too much, when you stay in fucked up relationships just because you don't want to be alone, you can't be a decisive person about what you want for your future. You can't move forward. You're stuck. That may have happened to someone else, and if that happens to you anywhere, that's just part of your journey. But I think what your dad saw was that ray of hope that you still had, that smile, that joy to just be able to be like, fucking, this has really sucked, but I can still allow joy to be part of my life. I can still have that human experience. I think when something tragic happens and then you shut that part off of yourself, you're dead.
Right.
Like we were just talking about those people who are miserable, but they're like 90 years old. They died a long time ago, but physically they're still here and
Still here.
complaining
Right.
about everything, right? But I think because he was such a joyous person and he was dealt a really shitty hand in life, but he kept going and he just kind of had a sense of humor. I think he saw that in you too. Like,
I think
hey,
so.
hey, Aurelie, like life's not been kind to you, but you've kept it moving and you can still find joy in life. That doesn't mean you're not scared, not this, that, the other. And maybe that was something that he couldn't like fully accept in himself, that it's like, yeah, I'm a goofball. Like, don't take me too seriously. Right? Like, because like,
Like this man went to church during COVID, refused to wear a mask, and told him it was a hoax.
okay,
I got kicked out of church.
dude, for
He
real.
was like, it's a hoax. It's not real. It's a flu.
You're like,
But that was him.
yeah, dude, I could tell you stories about my dad too. And it's embarrassing almost like, oh my God. It's like secondhand embarrassment, but it's like, but that's them. And I'm glad I wasn't there because I would have just
Dude, your dad,
faded away
remember
like
when
into the,
remember when you graduated from Santa Barbara?
oh my God, my dad.
I turned, you can't really tell when I turn red because, but I turned so red because your dad told some little kid in the front, stay still. He was like, Niño, no puedo ver. I was like, oh shit. But
Dude,
that's the secondhand embarrassment, but it's like, dude, it's him.
that's him. And that was similar to your dad,
Yes.
right? But I think I'm just more saying, I think like you and your siblings are all kind of like, you all have a really great sense of humor. And maybe it's because of your dad, because your mom is funny, but she's feisty. Your dad was very goofy and silly. And I don't think your mom like always appreciated that.
No, till the day he died, they couldn't be in the same room. Till it was when
Yeah.
he was dead on the bed that she was like, "Hey, sorry,
Oh,
dude. Sorry, we never liked
I'm
you
really
for
sorry that
birthday.
I like really hated you for so many years for no real reason.
Yeah, but thanks for my kids."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And they made four awesome people who are very different from one another. But
It,
like I think he saw that in you, that he knew and he saw in himself of like, like, yeah, feel your feelings and all that. But it's okay to laugh too. Dude, I
yeah.
remember, this is a random ass story that I'm about to tell you. I remember, speaking of death and people you love who die, I
Right.
remember when I think I was like in high school. No, yeah, I was in high school. My uncle passed away, my cousin's dad. You remember that? My tío Alfonso?
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. So the Pedrosa's dad, my
When
uncle
you were in
passed.
high school?
Yeah, yeah, right. I was in high school. Oh no, I had just graduated. You're right. Or I was about to. No, I was in high school because my cousin, Leilani, she was like in middle school.
Oh, wow. I thought she
Yeah.
was younger.
Yeah, she was about to go into middle school, like a sixth grader. Fifth, sixth grade. I think it was the summer between fifth to sixth grade. She was very young.
Okay.
And so I think I was gonna be a senior. I remember that year because we took her to Ensenada on a family trip. And we took her and I went with my brother Oscar and his daughter Alexis, and the whole time they just fought. And I remember I wanted to take her on this trip because she had been helping to care for my uncle. And I remember I told my mom, I was like, that's not healthy because I took care of my grandma around the same age
Right.
as her. And I was like, Mom, I don't think it's fair that, my cousin has to take care of my dying uncle. Like, like that's not cool. Like, it's not fair. She's about whatever, right? I kind of spoke to my mom, and my mom was like, you know what, you're right. Like, I should talk to her mom. And so her mom, my tia, allowed her to go on a trip with us that summer because she'd just been home caring for my uncle, which was very sweet and noble. But when you're 11, that's parents do their best, but that's like, that'll fuck you up
They
for a
will.
long time.
Yeah.
Trust me. Okay. I've been there. Um, so I remember we took her to Ensenada and we drove there, and it was me, Alexis, my niece, and Leilani, my cousin, and then Oscar. And remember his ex-girlfriend, Danielle? La
Yes.
güerita?
La
So,
abuelita.
La
Con
güerita. So
los
we,
big cojones.
yeah, yeah. So we went with them, and Alexis just fought with her dad like the whole time, and we're just sitting there like, we could have just fucking been in Costa Mesa doing this bullshit. Like, dude, she was 7. Like, what are you fighting about
With her dad?
with her dad? But then I'm like, you're like 31. What the fuck are you doing here fighting? I remember one day he got so mad at Alexis because I don't know what she was doing, that he was like, Alexis. And we had a tent, it has a zipper. He fucking ripped the zipper to the tent. And Leilani and I were fucking cracking up so hard. Oh my God, it was so fun. I'm sure it wasn't funny for my niece, but he had it. It had just been a fucking weekend of just. So then we had to sleep in the tent with an open door,
A
and
broken
it's
zipper.
a broken zipper in Ensenada, which is the beach, which kind of gets cold. And I remember I was so pissed. I was like, Alexis, can you do us a favor and stop crying so we could go to sleep? She wanted a snack or some bullshit. I don't know. But I was also like 16 and had very little empathy. Like, I was cold.
You were. You were kind of like, shut up.
I was like, dude.
Remember when
Oh my God.
your mom made you take Alexis with us to the store and you were pissed? And it was so funny because we had to cross the street, right? And you were like, hold my fucking hand. Safety first.
Okay, so for all of you who don't know, my niece and nephew are 10 years younger than me. So I'm the youngest of four, and my siblings, my brothers, had one child each when they were in their early 20s, 21, 23. So I was 10 when they were born, 10 turning 11. Quentin was born in May, and then Alexis was born in November. So I was 10 and then 11. So they grew up like my siblings, and they were having younger siblings. I never had. And then one day I just had a niece and a nephew that I had to take care of. I would change their diaper. Like literally, like they were like my little sibling. And I just was perpetually annoyed by Alexis because she was always crying.
Yeah, because Quentin was pretty cool.
He was
Clinton.
chill. He would just vibe with us. Like he was like cool, like,
Yeah.
yeah, where are we going? Whatever. And Alexis would just always cry. And I didn't appreciate it. When I was like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, I was like, I want to hang out with my friends and run
Right.
across the street. And she was like, we're
She
not
wasn't
supposed to.
about it.
Yeah, she was like, no. I remember one time we had to walk somewhere and she got so pissed off at me that she had to walk for 30 minutes because she wasn't the most physically active kid. I was walking from my brother's house, remember, on like Mayor Place?
Hmm.
Remember how he used to live by the library? We had to
Right.
walk from there to my mom's house. So I worked for Danielle, my brother's ex-girlfriend. And then afterward, my brother was like, dude, can you take care of Alexis? We don't have anybody to take her. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. She'll just have to walk back home with me. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. She needs the exercise anyway. Um, so I was like, hey, Alexis, you're gonna come to my parents' house. And she was like, fine, that's her grandparents, whatever. And then she was like, well, where's the car when we walked outside of the house? And I was like, I'm 17. I don't have a car. And she had a meltdown because we had to walk.
Oh,
Pissed,
wow.
pissed. She was so mad. She walked faster than me, which was great because we ended up getting to my parents' house earlier and we didn't have to fight or argue.
Jeez. That's insane. But literally, Juan knows you since junior high,
Yeah, that's what I'm
actually.
saying. Like, yeah, like I've known him forever. So he knew all my hangups, like like your kid's like attitude. He got to know mine.
Bro, I wonder how our kids are gonna be when they grow.
I don't know. It's already tough. My kiddo has he has a really strong sense of what he wants to do, which I'm fine with. I just don't know if other people appreciate it as much as I do. As well as like sometimes it's like we don't have to argue about everything. I just asked you if you were thirsty. That's it.
Yeah.
You
That,
don't have to
you
be
know,
like, no. Like I'll be like, hey bud, are you thirsty? Do you want anything? No.
yeah.
Okay, I got it.
And it's insane because it kind of freaks me out for the future because my daughter is already very feisty.
Ah, so hard. Jesus, Mary and the cat.
we'll just, we'll,
Edit.
yes, we'll edit that part, but and then we should probably finish so you don't have to cut too much.
Yeah. We will see each other in 2 weeks. Next week I'll
Two
be
weeks.
on and I'll talk about Sinistry and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll be back September.
Yes, awesome.